do know, some they don't, because I think the majority of us have experienced a loss one way or another, right? And it impacts our identity, it impacts our lives in so many different ways. But before we jump into this fantastic conversation, Michelle, do me a favor, please. Introduce yourself, tell my audience a little bit about who you are, and of course, where they can find you.
Oh, thank you so much. And so I'm Michelle. I am Michelle Ferguson or Simwa. You can find me in Instagram or in Facebook. My handle is Simwa Michelle Ferguson. So it's CEST. Like in first Simwa Michelle Ferguson. I started my journey as an author way back in 2023 when I self-published my first book. And so, first of all, I live in Cape Cod. I was a cancer patient, a caregiver to my husband that passed away almost 4 years ago. She had also cancer, so that was triggers me to write that book, the first book. It helps me heal. I live in Massachusetts now. I'm doing some coaching and public speaking, talking about grief, identity loss, helping women that are navigating this because there's no, and when you became a caregiver and then became a cancer patient at the same time, there is no handbook how to navigate that the change of identity and then loss. So hopefully my story would help others that are that are in my shoes. So that's me, and they can find me again in Facebook and in Instagram, and also my website simwamichelleferguson.com.
Thank you. So you mentioned that your spouse passed away, was it 4 years ago, you said?
4 years ago, yeah, going on
Four
five, yeah.
years ago. Okay. So describe to us then that journey from up until he passed away and the years afterwards. How was that for you?
So it was really a whirlwind journey, because we were in our I was in my mid 40s at the time when we were diagnosed, and we just had came back from vacation. And when he was diagnosed, I know right away that our life would change. But then when I was diagnosed 6 months after him, within that 1 year's time, it was really like, okay. So we my how was it is that it was doctor's appointment, of course, chemo treatment and all these things. And it's but at that time it also happened during COVID. So we're really like literally in this together, just us. And by that our love become we've been married for 23 years before that. So it becomes more stronger. There was no really things left unturned. We also prepare each other because then we know that we all have expiration date, but it's a matter now of when, because it's like you have that up, with the cancer and everything. So we are more intentional of how we spend time together and how we really also make sure that, like me, I wrote my survival guide to him if I go first, and he wrote his survival guide to me if he goes first. Like, meaning, for example, how to open a garage door when the power is out. And I'm sure, like, oh, make sure that you get your aerobic steps, and then you climb and then you do this because I don't know. I mean, I always have them. So those are the things. And I'm glad. I mean, we practice gratitude separately before. We're always grateful, but then gratitude really becomes more of our anchor, and it helps us see cancer in a different lens, meaning that we took cancer as a friend, not as our enemy, and in return, we had the best 2.5 years battling cancer together. I said we have so much memories, like, because we that was during COVID, so we really have limited. It's really just him and I. Even if our friends wants to come and visit, because of that one, it's distancing and everything, so it's a little bit different. But we make memories together, cooking together, dancing in the living room together, singing. So it was good. And when the and when he passed away, it's just like identity loss, where your caregiving journey stop. And then you kind of, because for 2.5 years, it was my life too. I was a wife, a caregiver, and a cancer patient. And when that happened, there's a it's all these emotions. There's also a sense of relief to some extent, because especially you don't want him to see suffering And that's what the caregiver, when you're, especially with chronic illness or cancer and all the things that happen during chemo or radiation, and when you see your loved ones suffering, you kind of, even, you don't want them to suffer that much. So there's a sense of relief, but there's also this loss that's really cuts like a knife. And even up to now, grief comes in like snow or humidity, that they come and go, and it's still a journey. It's still a process, and but I get by a little help with friends. Learning and reading and writing also helps me to those days that when, and gratitude, of course.
I know one of the struggles that I hear a lot of people talk about is that when their partner passes away, they begin to ask themselves, who am I now?
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And in your case, it was your spouse and you guys were going through a similar situation. You're able to continue through it and he wasn't, but in a different sense, because I'm pretty sure he continues to be with you in spirit, energy, and of course soul to soul. What were some of the things that you think you struggled with after he passed away from an identity perspective?
From an identity perspective, is that I always joke it around that I was a wife. I mean, I was a daughter, a granddaughter, then a wife, then a caregiver patient, and then a widow. And the biggest thing identity wise is that it's always him and I going this. So, like for example, when you go to an event, and then like it's Mr. and Mrs. and all of these things, like now are you going back to Mrs. or Miss or things like that. The identity also that you feel like half of me is gone, like half of me is with him, that kind of identity feeling, because you lose. And if you're married that long, you become one part of each other. And I think that one, up to now, like there's really something missing, that no one can fill that void, and that identity of having him around, or like having someone like your partner that you, yeah. So I it's hard because I don't want to cry.
No, no, it's definitely an emotional
Mm,
situation, and I applaud your courage
mm,
because from me, from a coaching perspective, I work with how grief identity shows up in relationships, right? And one of the biggest struggles that I've noticed, and the majority, if not all, of my clients are women, and they're women over the age of 40. So if you remember that generation, they were married a little bit younger
mm,
than the people today, right? Like now we go to school, we have our whatever era, and we're like, okay, now I'm ready to calm down. I got it out of my system. I
yeah,
am 38. Okay. I need to make sure I have at least one kid and married once, right?
yeah.
Back then it was a little bit different, right? It was probably in their 20s they got married, they had kids a little bit later, and they have two or three. What I found from a client perspective is one, they have a difficult time accepting that people, social settings now, may not see them as a wife anymore, but as a widow,
Yes, yes,
right? And then there's a certain belief or certain expectations of a widow. One of them could be that, oh, you're dating already? The body's not even cold. Right? God forbid you had sex, right? That's a whole different conversation, right? But there's like this judgmental tone from some people where they think that you, me, and everyone else has to live by an expectation, meaning that if I lost my partner, it would take me this amount of time before I even looked at another person,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, and you mentioned that the social function, and you noticed, or maybe with your clients as well, that say this, that once you become a widow and you have, of course, before you became a widow, you have like couples that are friends, right? And you go out as couples and everything. And once you become a widow, it's kind of started to I don't know, like the invitation becomes less. Or before it was like, oh, you become a third wheel for a while, and then later on, life just continue with them, and it's not a fault on their own. It's just like, situation change now, and you are trying to not like replace friends, but you're also rebuilding and try and having your own life now and having some new friends again, new friends, because that part is kind of it's still there, but maybe they don't know how to react when you're around too, especially if you've been friends for a long time, and they're also grieving for the loss of their friends. So it's kind of a change of a dynamic too. Or like, one time, I was wearing it was kind of colorful because Jerry died in fall. So in spring, and I was very colorful and talking about expectations, like, oh, you're wearing already this colorful part, not the white and the and white and the black. It said like, yes, it's spring, and it's the only time we could wear it here in Four Seasons. I cannot wear colorful so it's a little bit of and holidays also, like, when holidays came, that's also like, so who am I now, like, who, because we have this tradition like Thanksgiving and stuff with friends, and so you lose really your identity, and then you're rebuilding your identity in a process it's a continuous journey.
How were you able to handle the social settings after your spouse passed away when it came to friends or just going out and about in the day-to-day world?
The social setting, I do more takeouts. I don't go into a restaurant like, I especially the only time that I go out on alone is when I'm in Europe, because then it's more kind of normal that, but here in Cape, I don't go to the restaurant as much. Friends, I started going out with friends and hanging out 6 months after, like going for a restaurant for dinner, but mostly like female friends or their couples that we used to know each other. But it's still awkward. It's still, I mean, because it's not awkward, but it's the feeling of like, okay, I'm here, but there's missing. So I think that's the reason why I didn't go out a lot. But I travel more on those first 2 years. I see friends that and former colleagues that I used to work with, and that also kind of helped me heal, because after COVID also, because during COVID you really cannot go out, so that makes me reconnect with friends that I haven't seen or classmates before. So that was kind of how I kind of move forward in a way. And learning French helped me keep forward.
I was born in a French part of Canada, and I definitely have to learn it because every time I go back, they always shake their finger at me. They're like, "You're born here. You can't speak the language." I was like, "Okay." I'm left when I was 4 years old. I didn't go to school, so I'm like, I'll learn it, right? So I definitely have to learn French and Spanish. Those are two on my list. But when it I've heard that struggle. Like I've heard people that they avoid a restaurant that they used to go to with their partner,
Mhm.
right? They'll avoid events. Some people, there's even shows that they used to watch together, and they're like, I can't watch the show together because that was her spot or his spot next to me as we watched
Yeah.
the show together. What do you, from a woman's perspective, what do you think are some of the things that women struggle with when it comes to handling grief, and why?
Um, when it comes to handling grief, because women, as we are, we're kind of like we're wearing so many hats to other people, and we show up for others. I mean, with women. So why women handle? Because for me, I could just speak from my experience. It was hard for me to reach out at before, like to friends. So I also, because I feel like I am bothering them for my grief. So I end up. So that's where I spent more of my time writing, because I don't feel like, okay, maybe, it's too much for me to ask them to, to come, or can I hang out. So I think that's my challenge at the time, to really, so I just compartmentalize, and I just, them into that. And women also, we are more sentimental than men. No, no, I don't think that. That's why they say like men are from Mars and women are from Venus. So we could cry at the drop of. So I think that's where the struggle of the grief is like, because we are so sensitive also that we don't want to bother friends or something that you kind of just, me, like I kind of just look inwards, not going out and avoiding those places. And then you're also becoming more like when you watch TV, for example, or something that reminds you, and then you cry because that's it.
You mentioned the different identities that you had during the experience when you and your spouse were still together. You're a wife, right? You were a caregiver. You were all these things. What do you what do you think the identities meant to you at that time, such as caregiver, such as being a wife, and so on? And how is it, what does it mean to you today?
What it means to me at that time is that really make sure that I am on top of everything that his schedule. I've never left Jerry's side from the moment he was diagnosed and until he died, because he died in my arms, here at the house. So the only time that we were really apart is when he was under operation or I am under operation. The rest, so that's really for the 2.5 years, we're really literally connected on the hip. And it what brings it to me now, this caregiving and being a patient, that it makes me see things at a different perspective. What I mean by that is that I'm a goal person. Like I have 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I plan my life literally. Jerry would even say that if Michelle can plan when she will die, the exact date, so that's how planning really I am before. And now I still do plan, but I also take time now to really for myself and to smell the roses and not to get caught up with the rat race of the things. If it's giving you stress, then don't do it. So it's really being more mindful now with life, being more appreciative with small things, and really, and I didn't also know how resilient I was when all of this happened. And now I also will need to, because I, as I shared earlier, that I don't want to bother people or something. I look at it as a bother. But then one of my friend was saying that, you know what, Michelle, if you don't ask, you're never given that person opportunity to help you, because they don't know also of what's going on with your head, and they might just respect your silence because you are grieving. You don't know what's going on. So, well, if you ask them and they said they were not able to, then that's another thing. So now I've learned how to ask also, that I cannot just do it. So it shows also vulnerability.
In 2024, since you mentioned this, Michelle, I lost my grandmother. My grandmother was the person who raised me. She was my superhero. She was Wonder Woman
Yeah.
to me. She was Supergirl. She was Xena Warrior Princess. She was just everything and everything to me.
But,
And one thing I came face to face with, and maybe a part of me didn't want to face this, was from the day I was born, since she raised me, up until the day before I found out she passed away, I viewed myself one way, right? I
mhm,
wasn't her grandson. She was my grandmother. I was her son, and she was my mother because that's how close we were. The day she passed away, it took me some time to realize this, but afterwards, I asked myself the question, am I still that person or am I someone else? And if I'm someone else, am I going to like that person? I was afraid to answer that question. And the reason why I was afraid to answer that question is because anytime I had difficulty, who did I go to? My grandmother.
yeah.
Now I had to do it on my own. So, one thing that I learned about myself is that she wasn't gone. She was still there with me. And because she was still there with me, just in a different form, because that's what I believe,
Mhm,
I was still that same person,
yeah.
but with a twist. Right? I
Yeah.
had to honor her. So when you look at yourself today, everything that you've been through, the people that you're speaking to, all the work that you've done, how do you view yourself today? And how is it similar? And maybe how is it different than how you viewed yourself back then?
It's actually a little bit similar, because I've always when I say that, because it's really, it's moi, it's Michelle, c'est moi, Michelle. It's really me. There's that. for me, the caregiver, the thing, it's really, it's part of who I was, and it's still. And I mean, speaking of grandmother, I was raised by my grandparents too, so I call them mama and papa, not. And they were really so I, speaking of that, when I came to United States, I go home to Philippines. I'm originally from Philippines, to see my grandpa and everything, and that never changed. Like, you're always gonna be the granddaughter, or you're, even if you call them papa. So what I'm saying is that it never really, who you are now, or what my experience was being, those doesn't really change me, but it makes me a better version of myself, because those experiences gives me lesson, and also gives me the experience to be a better friend to a friend now, to be a better coach, because when I talk about grief, I'm it still comes and visit me. And for sure, with your, if you're that close to your grandma, it comes, and there's no, it's indefinite, and there are some triggers to that one. So I the only thing that, and even with the wife part, like, for me, I will always he will always be a part of me. Like, it's not he's not gone. All I have to do is close my eyes, and he will be here, and he's here. So I the only thing I could say is that those experiences, or those challenges, that it makes me stronger, and makes me a better version, and a better friend, a better daughter, a better niece to my aunt, and a better coach, because I'm living through it.
When it comes to coaching people who are experiencing grief, either let's say they've lost someone, it's a loss of identity, or something else, what are
Mhm.
some of the tips that you share with them to give them strength through those moments?
So my coaching approach is more based also on the gratitude. So, and I do it, and I have it like a renew, I call it a renew program. So first is to really recognize the grief, recognize, because sometimes, like, recognize the feelings, all these emotions that you have, and write it down. And then after, it's like, what are these and then what are these emotions make you feel, and then go to the gratitude thing, like, what the gratitude. Then after that, once they recognize, then you have to, so R, that's recognize that, and then you have to embrace, or also the pain of the grief, take really time to heal. And I know you coach it too, because as what you said earlier in this program, that there are some, and you will get it too with other widows, like, once you get into this widow circle, like, oh, it took me 2 years to grieve, it took me or one would say, like, it would take me 2 months, and now they're into this, whatever, these apps, because it's 40 45 stuff, you get all these things going on. So, but never, I always said, like, like, I joke it around, like, especially if they were caregiver too before they become a widow. So, like, like, doctors would always say, like, when you ask, like, oh, doc, what are the side effects of the chemo treatment, or what are the side effects, and you know what, each patient reacts differently, right? Or, I said, in the same token, we, even if we have common denominator, that we are, with the grief comes differently to us. So don't compare. The biggest thing is, don't let other norm or other widow tell you, like, you should grieve in 1 year or 2 years, or don't go into these apps. So those are, because that's what they were, as I say, in this group that I belong to, say, like, oh, and some of them are scared sometimes of sharing, and say, and be true to yourself. That's really what I mean. Like, we've been through a lot. Don't lose who you are, and don't feel bad of showing up if you're going on a date, or, as what you said earlier, because everybody grieves differently. So you embrace that, you rewrite, you recognize the pain, you embrace it, and then also you reestablish yourself, and you're establishing yourself by also rewriting your own story now, because that part of Jerry that I have always gonna be a part of me, but there's also the other story that continues, and life doesn't have to. And to honor, the best way to honor your loved one is to continue on living, and be a bigger, and have impact uh to the world, to the society. And that's what I keep on telling myself also, and to the what people that I coach, that find purpose. Because the thing also with group, if you don't find a purpose or a goal, then because that's the challenge when you I one of my I said, like, when she stopped, when her partner died, the caregiving stopped, and then what am I gonna do now, who I am now. So really, and going through that's like, what's your purpose, and that might be a couple of conversation, because again, you're also grieving, you're mindful for the emotions, but it's really important baby step, and doing, like I called it, a smart goals, a specific measurable simple task, that it could even be like just going to be- it took me a while, and I'm practicing one thing, like going to the park that you used to walk and see what emotions trigger there, because then you'll be able to manage it. But it yeah so it so that's what that's what I always kind of, but the biggest thing is, please don't compare yourself to the other widows, and or how come they are dating and how come I'm not, or how, like, when is the right time to date, because or are no, because every individual, it's different for each person.
Thank you for mentioning the competition part because I do see some people competing with others either indirectly, some flat out directly. They're saying that, why are you able to date and I can't? It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, here's my partner. You can have him or her, right? I'll go find someone else. But what I've seen is some people will look at someone and they'll say, okay, this person started their grieving journey around the same time as me. Let's say you and I, right? We've lost separate people, but we both started in January of this
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
Within 6 months, you're able to go back to work, you're able to socialize again in the way that maybe you were back in December, as well as maybe you're enter the dating field, dating market.
yeah.
Me, on the other hand, I'm looking at it, okay, I'm evaluating my 6 month progress, and I'm like, okay, I'm still struggling at work. I'm still not able to date. I still don't go out. So it's just X and X and X on my scorecard, zeros. And you're getting A's, B's,
A
check mark,
plus.
right? Right? Exactly. So now I look at you, and instead of being appreciative of you, I may be jealous.
Yeah, and that's
And then
the
that
thing in
jealousy,
women too, because the
yeah, and that
jealousy.
jealousy turns into hate, right? So how does that impact people?
So that impacts resentment. That impacts resentment to people. That also impacts being like in the group, especially if you're in a group session or in a private. It impacts that rivalry or thing. Then it becomes more cliquish, or there's like hairsiders, and which is not healthy actually. So I always address that in a group setting, that and women are competitive too, and so and this and so, please, this is really, and if along the way you start feeling that, then well, we should have a one-on-one or something, or pull me out, because that shouldn't be the thing. We're here to empower each other. And so that's why, like, we started, okay, what are you grateful for, what are you grateful for in this group, what this group teaches, then change it back. But it's hard, it's a challenge, because human nature is also competitive, right? And then when you see people like really or doing all these things, that so that's why is she having a life now, or why is she getting married, so things like that, that's basic human thing. So to coach that, and coach like you also, that's really the challenge sometimes that we're facing, because how so that's why I always started it. If there's one takeaway in our group session, is that please don't compare yourself to each other. I keep on repeating that, because this is your personal growth, and you don't even know. I always say, it's like, you don't know what the real story also in the dating world. So don't let them run space in your head, free space in your head.
I wonder if that's why in many of the grief group sessions, you don't ever see the person's new partner,
I think so too.
right?
That's really
Have you noticed that? You don't see their new partner.
you don't, and yeah, because I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I don't have any data on it, but I've been in a few, and you don't ever. They'll say that they're dating someone, but you don't see their new partner, especially if it's in person. Forget that, because if it's virtual, you can really shut off the camera. So you won't see how sexy or beautiful they are. They don't have the floral dress that you wore. They won't even have that on camera, right? Like they'll make sure you don't see any of that. But it's interesting that you may hear about it for those who have the courage, but most of the time you don't know their dating experience afterwards, nor do you see their new partner.
No, that's really true. I'm gonna ask that next time in the group setting. That's
Hey,
really
there
interesting.
might be a brawl. There might be a war.
And maybe I shouldn't open that kind of war.
Yeah, yeah. It's just you just made me think about that. I was like, okay, I've been to three different groups for over the last 2 or 3 years, and it's just you don't hear about that part.
No, you really don't. You hear them, yeah, yeah, like yeah, I'm dating. I've been seeing this guy for yeah, but it's different. Yeah, it's now you made me curious. The next time I'll be in that group, I'm really because one of them is face to face. I'm really gonna ask.
There you go. Terrain said, I need to ask
Ter-
each and every one of you this.
Terrain, I'm doing this data right now. This is what Terrain was saying.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Like the next one, I have one that I'm going to be hosting in April and May. So I'm just going to ask. I'm the host, so they can't deny me, right? I'm the one
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
hosting
You
it.
could ask or not, right? So, or maybe the next says, oh, you could bring your partner or your date. Bring a date. And you're
Yeah. See it go from like 30 to 40 people to like five. Huh? Why is it the lowest attendance this week? What happened?
Oh, I followed Michelle's now, but no, it's really interesting. Now that you mention it, well, I have one on April 11. I'm gonna ask.
There you go. There you go. We'll ask in the same month and then we'll run away somewhere so they can't do anything to us, right? So
Good.
let me ask you then, when it comes to reinventing ourselves,
Yeah.
right? And owning that new identity and even playing a role in crafting it. What role do you think that maybe shame and guilt plays in that new identity and its creation?
The not the shame. It's more of a little bit of guilt. Like when I visit, we have this map here in my side. Like we always like we put the green to the places that we want to go, and then the red. So when I look at that, it's more of like oh my god, how it's a guilt a little bit because I'm going there without him, and then it's kind of like and now I'm putting different colors, not just so there's this guilt feeling, then I said, you know what? I shouldn't be guilty because he would love me to move forward, continue on traveling, continue on living. But there's always kind of a pinch, like in your it's not the shame, but it's just like, okay, I'm a little bit guilty that I'm doing this. I'm traveling more that and he should have been on my side and here's the thing. But it's also by do the first couple of travels was hardest for me because it was just like especially on a plane or going to Logan first at the bus that there's always someone like you have someone beside you, right? So you feel guilty for, and I feel guilty to some extent also because how I mean he was stage 4 esophageal cancer and I how I wish I was like maybe more um like but he said he's giving up anyway so like gonna like be more aggressive with okay go into more treatments or go into that so those are the kind of guilt that's playing on my head not the reinventing myself because why the reason I said that because when he stopped taking chemo and stopped really his treatment we have this dialogue and really like come to adult Jesus conversation. I call it that. And it's to me like, I want you to continue living. That's why it funny but not funny about French. She said, I want you to find a good distraction because you'll be needing this once I'm gone. So you actually picked my French instructor, and that was during COVID and everything. So like, and promise me and promise yourself that you will really gonna see this through. So that also by now speaking French, and I even wrote the version of A Love Like Ours in Francais, it makes me it's honoring him too. So it's not really it's a kind of guilt, but not so much guilt. No, kind of guilt, but not so much guilt because he helped me prepare to reinvent. What I say is he helped me prepare to reinvent myself. I
I'm glad
answered
it
it in a very long way.
No, that's perfect because they're here to speak to you. Not they're not here for me. They're here for you, right, Michelle? So that's a beautiful way to answer. The way that I agree with you, guilt shows up that way. The way that I probably would say that shame shows up is to part of what we touched on earlier is when you start to go out
Yeah.
and start to live a life again. People may criticize the outfit that you wear, the people that you're hanging around with. If you start dating again, I came in. There's a part of a workshop that I was in last year, and I discovered that there's something called Widow's Fire. Do you know what Widow's Fire is by any
Yeah.
chance? Yeah. So I was like, Widow's Fire. I was like, "What's that?" Me being naive, right? Because I haven't had a partner that passed away. So they're explaining it to me, and I was like, "Oh, so you're horny?" Right? That's basically, but they had this like it's elaborate explanation and everything, and they're like, "No, Trey, it's not exactly like that." I was like, "Well, the way you described it, and then the two people who are describing it, they developed those relationship with mutual with friends that was mutual to the person to themselves, the person they lost." So I look back and I was like, take away the grief aspect. If I came to you and I was telling this to them, and I said that, hey, you know what? I'm not kind of, my partner is sick or she's away. I'm going to go and do X, Y, and Z with a friend that knows us both.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say that I'm just like, yeah, on the out, right? On the outside looking in, that's what it looks like, right? But the reason why I shared that story and I shared the way that I did is that I asked them, how did you initially have the conversation to one, include that type of life? And the second part is you're picking someone that you know,
Yeah.
right? It's not like it's a stranger.
Yeah.
It's like, let's say Michelle, and I don't know if you have male friends or female friends or whatever, but let's say you found out that your spouse was going to pass away, and then you both came to agreement that you're going to start having an intimate relationship with one of your male friends. That's a friend to the both of you. Wouldn't people on the outside looking think, did you always have that thought
Yeah.
in your mind? Right? Like, how did you pick Johnny?
Oh, yeah. No, no. Oh.
Yeah, right. Like, how did you pick Johnny? It's not like there's. I don't know if there's an app. Maybe there is, right? Maybe there's like a grieving, like Tinder. Maybe there's like a grieving app, right? I don't know. So that's how I learned about Widow's Fire. So it wasn't. It was taught to me in a way that came across as something else. But then when I went to like communities, I understood it that sometimes as social creatures, we want that connection that maybe we can't get with a spouse that's passing away, right? Because it's stressful taking care of them. It could be demanding. You may not have that emotional connection. What are your thoughts on the connection that sometimes we want to get, but we maybe can't get it as a caregiver, and then we experience widow's fire, as some people would say?
Well, fortunately for me, I never experienced that during my caregiving days with Jerry, and we still have that physical connection, and that's one of the reasons that he stopped it also doing his chemo because he knows that it's not gonna be good for him, and he could select the timing and stuff. There's such thing also. I mean, the I think for me, and I cannot speak for other, but just my experience, it's more of the emotional connection and more than the physical connection. And my I have a very good friend. He's actually Milan. He said like when you intimacy doesn't need to be physical, it could be also emotional. And for me it's more of the emotional intimacy and that's what Jerry kind of prepared me also, because during that time, I mean, he doesn't pick my love, he picked up for a teacher to teach me, French language, and to see that true. But for someone I haven't I don't I'm fortunate enough that I don't experience that, and I've been widow going on 5 years. I haven't experienced like I just write books, I do gratitude, I run, I do yoga, I find other things.
Cold showers, lock myself in the room. Yeah, yeah.
No, I do hot bath, I do like but no, I mean and if you and I guess because I don't think about it, so it doesn't really. It's when you're thinking about it, I guess. But if you keep your mind occupied and then you're tired by the end of the day, so it's
Terrain, I don't have the energy to think about this, so that's I just write my books, help people, and I go to sleep.
I go
Wash,
to
rinse,
sleep.
repeat.
Well, my full-time job, I'm still I work as a financial advisor with Edward Jones. So my life is so that so from nights I have that, then I clients them. So what is that? Like, like, if you don't think about
You
it, you won't.
you'd be surprised. Like if you even like on Facebook, for example, right? They have these groups, right?
Yeah,
And when I was speaking to some people that are in it, like the language that they would use, I don't like I wasn't like this as a teen, but it reminds me of that. Like you're just full of all this,
yeah,
you're just about to explode every day, right?
yeah,
It was like that. And I'm just thinking it's going like it's full circle. And I get it, right? Because I guess I haven't been in a situation where I've gone long periods of time without emotional connection because I've always had like
yeah,
relationships and
yeah,
they've been long term, right? So it's like I guess the best analogy you could give is like you're getting a glass of water every day until
yeah.
you go 2, 5, 10 days without a glass of water. You're like, I'm really thirsty.
Sometimes. No, but for me, because I have that emotional connection, I don't really crave that physical connection. That's what it's like. So I'm blessed and grateful that I have emotional connection, and I'm busy that I don't have to think of that.
Amen, Michelle. Amen.
It's just a Sunday talk, right? It should be PG. No, I'm kidding.
It is. It is. You should join those groups. You think if you don't think this is PG, you probably want to close the blinds, close the door, make sure the kids are somewhere else, right? But I think that emotional connection is so true because I will always say that when it comes to the different forms of connection, let's say emotional, spiritual, physical, and mental, you
Mhm.
want all three, right? That's the signs of a healthy
Yeah,
relationship. But I find as you get more deeply connected to the person that you're with, it's that emotional connection, such as when you see them text you good morning, I'm missing you,
yeah.
you feel really good,
Exactly. And
right?
it's like when someone said like, "Oh, are you text me that you're home safely?" Or are you? So that you are in their mind. So that's really more than, and even it's far. You could it transverse the ocean. So yeah.
Do you think sometimes people confuse the need for emotional connection and then they substitute it with the physical connection?
Yes, I could really say to that one from the group that I belong to. I could hear it, but I'm there as a participant, not as a coach. Because, and so I keep my 2 cents, but I do hear it at times, and just kind of the side, the way they are talking and everything, and then I could say because some of them like, oh, then I'm just going to the next one. So then it's really the confusion. So because if you are in this match and then you go from one guy, or 3 months after you go to another guy, then you are really looking for emotional connection, not the physical. And sometimes it takes, guidance and coaching also to really know what you are, and really self conversation, like, self awareness, what is really that you really need. And people like you are helping those ladies and group to really to no, because it's really confusing, right? It could be confusing for some, yeah, and especially if you're still grieving, you have all these emotions and then things. But here's my thing: if you are changing I mean, not no judgment there, but isn't this also that you're looking for more in-depth, not just the, like, not just a booty call, if you call it like now.
Yeah, there comes a point in your life you're too old for booty calls,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah,
I know what that age was for me. Like, thank God I haven't ever done that. There's no shame to anyone that does it.
yeah,
But if I was 50s, 60s, and in my 70s doing that, I would feel that I need something else,
exactly. Right. Yeah.
right?
And sometimes it could also be because I heard them saying that, oh, it's you're alone, and it's better that at least I have someone. They were saying, I said, like, don't just say like you're alone, because the moment I always say that our mind is so powerful, right? Whatever. So if you already said that you are alone and you feel, and it's better, then what are you are sabotaging your own happiness, your own growth, your own self-awareness. So it's yeah. Well, that's why they need people like you to guide them.
And
I'm
she's
like,
talking about coaching, ladies and gentlemen, okay? She's talking about people like me in coaching.
I'm coaching.
Let me
You might get a lot of phone calls after that. So people like full disclosure, people like Darren for coaching, or people like me that will coach them.
Yeah, because it might be coaching and dating. Like it might be one big line, right? No, it's just coaching. We can help
Yes,
you find somebody, but that somebody, I mean, it's not going to be us. We're good over here.
yeah,
There was speaking of that, there was someone that we're social media friends and we're acquaintances. We talk through Messenger and things like that a little bit. She lost a childhood friend, but they were really close as children, but as they grew up as adults, they lost a little bit of connection, but they still were connected,
yes,
talking here and there. That person she's married and that person passed away. And she didn't get to say the goodbye at that time that she wanted to say. And I know that impacts people a lot.
yeah,
So what she did is that she posted online, like a number of people do, right? Because the online community is so big. So sometimes when you want that attention, you can just go online. I lost Jerry,
yeah,
for example, right? I lost my partner, whomever. She started to get the attention, but she was getting attention in these big waves that she wasn't used to because she didn't really get attention outside of her marriage.
yeah,
One of the ways that she coped, and I share this story because some people don't talk about this side, but we mentioned like widows' fires and things like that. Even though she wasn't a widow, the attention she started to get started to make her feel appreciated, make her feel good inside. And she's feeling now that, and this was like a lot of men were giving her attention, right? So now she's like, oh my God, there's a lot of male eyes on me. And some people who didn't get attention from the opposite sex, once they start getting it, they start to feel good. It's like a drug, they become addicted to it.
yeah.
She ended up having sex with a number of those people who gave her the attention online, even though she was married. And she did this for about a year and a half. And when I spoke to her, probably during this, I told her, I was like, just be careful because you're feeding into this attention, right? She's like, well, you don't know what I'm going through. It's a hard time. I'm like, I understand, but not all attention is good attention,
Yes.
right? So when she came to me now and she told me that she ended up having sexual relations, I was like, well, here's the thing. What you did 100% is wrong. Two, the person that you are, the person that you were during that doesn't necessarily have to be the person that you are afterwards. But that identity that you took on is going to have consequences. And one of those consequences is it's going to impact your marriage, it's going to impact how your children view you, it's going to impact how other people view you, as well as now you know that you're willing to compromise yourself and your
Yes.
body for attention. When it comes to the grieving experiences, what are some of the ways that you have seen people compromise their values or their morals during that journey?
So one thing that I could share to you is that what was shared in one of the things, or maybe I shouldn't be sharing this. I should just share my experience because it's not a, yeah, big to really is that it's I don't I don't suck for me. I could going back since I became a widow almost 5 years ago. I don't think I never sacrificed my morals. I could really say that because I have to live with myself, and that's really the thing. I may you know it may take me longer to go into, like, I have some friends that are setting me up like, oh, do you want to do? I said no, I don't want to do that. I'm a romantic fool. I'm not gonna be like going into this app. So I would there was even that I would say there was one time that my one of, because I belong to this French group that, Anglophone and Francophone, and said, oh, you should go into these apps to help you learn French more, that you could do exchange messages, and they will help you with, you will help them with their English, you'll help them, etc. And I put it there that, I'm learning French and blah blah blah. But then there's a lot of like as talking about attention and these apps, and they and my idea was just really to learn French and not to find a partner or what have you. There's all these messages, the thing. And when I started getting all these messages that are for me kind of hitting, I actually deleted that application, and I said, you know what? I could just do Duolingo. I could do Bubble. I don't need to do this. Um, so I don't. So I haven't really. I haven't. I haven't. No. I, Jame.
What
I'm
about,
boring.
yeah, what do you think then? Why do you think some of the people compromise themselves?
One, I think some people compromise themselves because they're scared of being alone. Um, the other thing also, like, I'm grateful enough that I have the fight that I'm okay financially, that I don't need to compromise myself. I've seen some reasons for compromising is financial reasons, but I think it's really more of scared of being alone. But once you start really enjoying your, I mean like being alone and finding purpose, it's the most liberating experience. And yeah, I mean it's, I don't know, like I was, it's the way I look at it in a I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love to have Jerry by my side or physically, that I could hug and stuff like that. But widow also gives me like a different sense of like it's okay, like like it's not really the end, like yeah. I don't know whether I make sense to your with that one, but I think it's, for my point of view, I think it's really being the financial, or the scared of being alone and just want to be with, and that they compromise their morals, the same thing with your, the attention, as what you shared a while ago. That might be.
I think that's tough, right? Like the fear of being alone is such a strong fear for a lot of people, right? Like imagine, and seems like maybe you went through this a little bit. You got married, which not everyone is able to do, right? Not everyone's able to get married. You're married a long time, which is something that not everyone's able to do. And then that ends, and taken away from you and I, like the average person, it's like, okay, who am I now? Because as a child, like many of us, right, we're saying, do well, get married, have some kids, and you're going to be happy. Well, I did all of that and I've lost it now. Now you're trying to rebuild it, but you're older. And some people may think
Wiser, older.
wiser, right? I got a little wisdom in my beard. That's why it's gray. And you're trying to find love again, but you don't want to be alone. And some people, as they get older, maybe you've seen this, Michelle, is that they're like, okay, time is ticking because I have more time behind me than I have in front of me. So some people may feel desperate. And maybe that's why some people,
Yeah.
instead of taking the time to find someone, they're like, okay, how's the quickest guy I can get a man or woman? And the quickest way is always going to be the bedroom. It's always going to be that way, right? It's a road less traveled. Like it's literally, you put up a sign and you stand in front of it, enter my bedroom. There's going to be people that's going to take you up on that offer, right? Good, bad, or everything in between. So I can see why that fear is
Yeah.
so strong with people. And I can see sometimes people thinking to themselves, well, I don't want to die alone. And to your earlier point, right? Having someone who maybe isn't the best is better than having no one.
Yeah. But for but for me, why would you settle yourself for less? That's the question that I would ask a person, like, because I heard it, say they say like, oh, it's better than being alone. And I could say that to my father. He passed away last December, and he was saying, Michelle, I really cannot believe that you are okay being alone. That, oh, you want to go to the beach alone? Like, what's up? Like, because Michelle, you were just like, Dad, I'm really okay. And the reason I said it, because he was marriage annulled and remarried and have girlfriends, but he always have someone with him. So he could, like, the codependency kind of thing. And I said, Dad, can you just try being alone and see how, like, it's actually rejuvenating. But there are some people that are codependent in nature, I think, and that's why it's more, and that's when they start compromising their morals or of that one too. But I should like we shouldn't.
Do you think some people can't handle being alone after being in a long relationship?
I think so. Some people can't handle because they're used of doing things. I think the big difference between Jerry and I too during our marriage is that even though we always have our time, like our own me time, like Jerry will go to Lake Champlain to have fishing with his buddies. Then I have my croissant. So there's always, and we also considered our work as our time apart, and we continue. We've been married for 23 years, together for 25, so we go on dating, so it's always but there's always separate. It's although I was aware, but there's also a separate me, like I'm building my book of business. So having that, and but there are some females or women also that they were wife, they stopped working because they have kids, so that thing, it's then when their partner is gone and the kids go to university or what have you, then it becomes them. But with me, I will never have kids, Jerry, and I have a four-legged son, a Jack Russell Terrier, but that's it. So I'm used and I always look at it this way: to being the only child, I learned to be really self-reliant. So it's kind of, and so I think that that helps shape and prepare me for this life.
When it comes from going from, let's say, a wife or a husband to a widow,
Yeah.
what advice do you want to give people to handle that transition, maybe in the eyes of how other people will view them?
And well, first of all, just really be true to yourself. Don't and if you want to laugh out loud like me, laugh out loud like me. Don't let other, because we in the society, I mean, we have this, like, we conform, right? Or there's this thing, but just be yourself and be true to yourself. That's real. And whoever will you meet on the way, or if you have a tribe, if they are your tribe, you will find them, they will find you.
That's wise words, because sometimes I think that we need the community
Yeah.
when it comes to that, because it could be a lonely journey. It could be a very fearful journey. It could be a journey that we have all these strong emotions, right? Because grief, I find, in a lot of ways, amplifies some of the emotions,
It
right? You may
does.
see a movie that you didn't really cry in before, but now you lost someone, you put on that movie and you're bawling your eyes out. You're like, why am I crying? I've seen this movie
Yeah.
1,000 times. Right? When it comes to the emotional aspect, how can we advise people to, in general, to help them handle the new emotions and maybe the big emotions that they're going to experience?
So I follow my own advice. I journalize. I really journalize my emotion. I go and I write it. I don't do the telephone thing, or like type it, because there's something in writing and like my passion. And so I journalize how I feel, what it made me feel, and even like with speaking of the movie, like what triggers that emotion, because I it's more self-awareness for me. And then when because, like, for example, I'm just gonna watch like Big Bang. Jerry loved to watch Big Bang Theory, like that's, and for a while I never really go into that channel because the replay, because it just brings back memories. But then I said, you know what, I'm gonna do a baby step. I'm gonna watch it and see how it makes me feel, what I'll be laughing out loud. So I'm experimenting, and then I really write it down. So journalizing would really help. Talking about a lonely journey, it could be a lonely journey, and that's why my coaching also focus into gratitude, because every morning, during the moment I wake up, I write down. I have my post-it here: 3 reasons what am I grateful for. And throughout, so I said it out loud even before I have my cup of coffee. And practicing gratitude, don't get me wrong, it's not like being in la 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 land every day, or positivity every day. No, that's not. There's raw emotions, and along the way, from any given time, the moment I'm up until the moment I go to sleep, their life throws us curveballs. And when it happens, I go back to my post-it and I read it out loud. And you could sense it in your voice, because like I just did it last Friday. It happened to me that I was really, there was a situation that it made me a little bit angry, and even also yesterday it happened. And then I just go back to like, what am I grateful? So that you could hear it in your voice, that change. I could hear it in my voice, the change from the angry or upset to more positivity. Because, well, how can I go? So it's that's my always go to the so what am I, because our mind can only handle one emotion. and and so why would you make it more if you can, um with a gratitude, or what, or make it more positive instead of dwelling on the negative. Plus it's good for your health too, because one big thing about cancer, stress. So I'm really trying to be stress free or eliminate the stress.
Let me ask you, Michelle. I want to ask you one final question before I let you go today. I'm going to give you three wishes for this question. What are three things you wish people knew about handling the stress of a new identity and why?
um the the stress, comes, i- if you, the stress will be coming from your friends, that if you let them. I always say that at any day you always have the power of what, how would it affects you. So the, don't let the other people dictate or be or what's the norm. um because I one thing, like in my, not the way, but in if you are working or something, all those stress, how to, let me put it in a very more, sorry, and I lost my it's, don't let, yeah, don't let others be, like advices or like norms be the affect. I mean, don't, if one, for example, like me, I'm just gonna use my own example, as I'm trying to, I don't wanna, so I have a, I have this good friend. She's a widow though, but she's been a widow for like a longer than me. She started dating and everything, but she was telling me, and it made me a little bit stressed. And I said to myself, why am I letting her stress me? So here was the thing that she was telling me, like, said like, oh, that house is really too big for you. Like, why won't you downsize? Why was so all of these things, like, trying to, so I said, no, I cannot. So what I'm saying that is that, because there are some solicited and unsolicited advice, but don't give the power to anyone. You always have the power of how you receive it. That's what I'm trying to say in a very all around way.